It is 1932. Denmark is in the grip of the Great Depression. A carpenter named Ole Kirk Christiansen has just watched his furniture business collapse. His wife is dead. He has 4 sons to feed. He has no money. He has no prospects. And he has a workshop full of wood scraps that nobody wants to buy. Most men in that position give up. Ole Kirk Christiansen picked up a piece of wood, and he started making toys. He had no idea that the small wooden duck he carved that afternoon in a freezing Danish workshop would one day become the foundation of the most powerful toy empire in the history of the world. He had no idea that the name he gave his company, from the Danish words "leg godt," meaning play well, would one day be known in every country on earth. He called it Lego. And this is the story of how it almost died, twice, and how the man who saved it, a CEO handed a company on the edge of bankruptcy with $800 million in debt, engineered one of the most extraordinary business turnarounds in corporate history. This is not a story about toys. This is a story about what happens when you forget who you are, and what it takes to find your way back. Ole Kirk Christiansen was not a businessman. He was a craftsman. He believed, with a stubbornness that his sons would inherit, that quality was not negotiable. In the early days of Lego, when money was so scarce that feeding his family was a daily uncertainty, he made a decision that would define the company forever. He discovered that a supplier was selling a cheaper grade of wood than the one he had ordered. He could have kept it. The difference was invisible to the customer. The saving was significant. He sent it back. He paid for the more expensive wood. He went hungry rather than compromise on quality. His sons thought he was crazy. He told them, "Only the best is good enough." He had that phrase painted on the wall of his workshop. "Det bedste er ikke for godt." Only the best is good enough. It became the motto of Lego. And for the next 70 years, it was the compass that guided every decision the company made. In 1947, Lego made a decision that changed everything. Ole Kirk had heard about a new material, plastic, that was beginning to be used in manufacturing across Europe. He invested almost every kroner the company had in a plastic injection molding machine. His neighbors thought he had lost his mind. Plastic toys were considered cheap, throwaway. Parents didn't trust them. But Ole Kirk saw something nobody else could see yet. He saw that plastic could do something wood never could. It could interlock. In 1949, Lego produced its first plastic brick. It was called the automatic binding brick. It was not yet the brick the world would come to know. The clutch power was inconsistent. The connection wasn't perfect. But the idea was there. The idea that a child could take these simple pieces, these identical, interchangeable, infinitely combinable pieces, and build anything their imagination could conceive. It took 9 more years of refinement. 9 years of tweaking the tube system inside the brick. 9 years of testing the exact thickness of the plastic walls. 9 years of obsessive, relentless pursuit of the perfect connection. And in 1958, Lego filed the patent for the brick that changed the world. The stud and tube coupling system. A design so perfect, so elegantly engineered, that it has not been meaningfully changed in 65 years. When a Lego brick made in 1958 connects with a Lego brick made today, they fit perfectly. That is not an accident. That is the legacy of a carpenter who believed only the best is good enough. Ole Kirk Christiansen died in 1958, the same year his greatest invention was patented. He never saw what Lego became. His son Godfred took over and built the company into a global phenomenon. By the 1970s, Lego sets were in toy shops across Europe, America, Australia, and Asia. By the 1980s, Lego had become something extraordinary, a toy that transcended age, gender, language, and culture, a universal language of creativity. Parents who had grown up with Lego bought it for their children. Children became adults and bought it for themselves. Architects used it to model buildings. Scientists used it to prototype machines. Artists used it to create works that hung in galleries. Lego was not just a toy. It was a platform for human imagination. And the company that made it was, by every measure, one of the most beloved brands on earth. Then the 1990s arrived, and Lego began to forget who it was. The toy industry was changing fast. Video games were exploding. Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, a new world of digital entertainment was capturing the attention of children in ways that plastic bricks never had. Lego looked at the numbers and panicked. The family that had run the company for 3 generations made a decision that seemed logical at the time. They needed to grow. They needed to diversify. They needed to become more than just bricks. And so Lego began doing something it had never done before. It started saying yes to everything. Theme parks. Legoland opened in multiple countries. Massive capital investments that locked up hundreds of millions of dollars. Clothing lines. Lego branded apparel that had nothing to do with the core product. Television shows. Video games. Watches. A lifestyle brand called Lego Explore aimed at babies and toddlers. And most fatally, a dramatic expansion of the product line itself. In the 1990s, Lego went from having a focused, coherent range of sets to producing over 13,000 different components. 13,000. Each one requiring its own mold, its own manufacturing process, its own supply chain management. The factories couldn't keep up. The supply chain became a nightmare. The costs spiraled. And the products themselves, the sets that children were opening on Christmas morning, had lost something. They had become complicated, prescriptive, sets so specific, so detailed, so designed to be built in one way and displayed on a shelf that the fundamental magic of Lego, the freedom to build anything, the invitation to imagine, had been quietly suffocated under the weight of too many pieces and too many instructions. Children were building the set, then putting it on a shelf, and never touching it again. Lego had forgotten what it was for. By 2003, the numbers told a story that was almost impossible to believe. Lego, the company that had survived the Great Depression, that had reinvented itself with plastic when everyone said plastic was worthless, that had built the most beloved toy brand in the world, was losing $1 million a day, $800 million in debt, on the verge of bankruptcy. The family that had built Lego from a wood scrap in a freezing Danish workshop faced the possibility of losing everything. They needed someone to save it. They found Jørgen Vig Knudstorp. He was 35 years old. He had no experience running a company. He had been a McKinsey consultant and had joined Lego just 3 years earlier. The Lego family handed him the keys to a burning building and said, "Fix it." What Knudstorp did next is one of the most remarkable acts of corporate leadership in modern business history. He did not bring in a team of Wall Street restructuring experts. He did not slash and burn. He did not rebrand or pivot or disrupt. He walked around the company and he asked a question: what is Lego for? He went back to the beginning, back to the carpenter in the freezing workshop, back to the phrase painted on the wall: only the best is good enough. Back to the fundamental truth that a child with a box of Lego bricks and an imagination can build anything.
No, yes. And he made a decision that everyone told him was suicidal.
He made Lego smaller. He sold the theme parks. He cut the product line from 13,000 components to a fraction of that number. He shut down the clothing lines, the baby products, the lifestyle extensions. He brought manufacturing back in-house rather than outsourcing it. He reduced the number of sets dramatically and focused on making each one extraordinary. He let go of thousands of employees. He looked at the bleeding and he stopped it. Not by growing faster, but by ruthlessly returning the company to what it actually was: a toy company. The best toy company in the world. That makes one product perfectly. The results were not immediate. There were years of pain, years of uncertainty, years when the family that had built Lego wondered if it was too late. But slowly, the numbers changed. 2005, first profit after years of losses. 2006, growth. 2007, real growth. And then something happened that nobody predicted. The adults came back. The children who had grown up with Lego in the 1970s and 1980s. The ones who had built spaceships and castles and cities on their bedroom floors were now in their 30s and 40s, and they had money. LEGO launched its architecture series, precise architectural replicas of iconic buildings. Its creator expert sets, extraordinarily complex models designed for adult builders. Its Technic line, mechanical sets of breathtaking engineering complexity. And then, in 2008, a partnership that changed everything. LEGO signed a licensing deal with Lucasfilm for Star Wars. Star Wars LEGO sets became a phenomenon unlike anything the toy industry had ever seen. Adults who had never bought a toy in 20 years were queuing outside stores. Then came Harry Potter, then Indiana Jones, then Batman, then Marvel, then Lord of the Rings. LEGO had discovered something profound, that the people who loved LEGO as children never stopped loving it. They just needed permission to come back. By 2012, LEGO had overtaken Mattel to become the largest toy company in the world. By 2014, The LEGO Movie, a film that almost every studio in Hollywood had turned down as ridiculous, grossed over $469 million at the box office. By 2015, LEGO was the most powerful toy brand on Earth. Its revenue had grown from $900 million in 2003, when it was losing $1 million a day, to over $5 billion. The Carpenter's company had survived the Great Depression. It had survived the plastic revolution. It had survived its own near-death experience. And it had emerged as something no one in 1932 could have imagined. The most beloved brand in the history of childhood. So what is the lesson of LEGO? The first lesson is one that every company in the world needs to hear. Diversification is not always growth. Sometimes it is dissolution. LEGO in the 1990s believed that expanding into every possible category was the path to survival in a changing market. What it was actually doing was diluting the one thing that made it irreplaceable: the brick. The moment LEGO stopped being about the brick and started being about theme parks and clothing and baby products, the moment it tried to become everything, it started becoming nothing. The return to greatness began the moment Knudstorp asked the simplest possible question: what are we actually for? Every business that loses its way loses it for the same reason. It forgets to ask that question. The second lesson is about the relationship between a product and its customer. LEGO's greatest asset was never its factories or its patents or its supply chain. Its greatest asset was the emotional connection between the brick and the child who held it. That connection, formed in bedrooms and living rooms and on kitchen floors across 60 years, was so deep, so real, so fundamentally human, that it survived even LEGO's worst years. When Knudstorp gave those customers permission to come back, they came back in their millions, because they had never really left. And the third lesson is about identity. Ole Kurt Christiansen, in a freezing workshop in 1932 with no money and no prospects, painted 4 words on his wall. Only the best is good enough. Not only the most profitable. Not only the most diversified. Not only the fastest to market. Only the best. That phrase survived the Great Depression. It survived the death of its founder. It survived the near bankruptcy of 2003. And it is painted on the walls of LEGO's headquarters in Billund, Denmark to this day. Because the companies that survive everything, the recessions, the disruptions, the near-death experiences, and the existential threats, are the ones that know exactly who they are and refuse, even when the world tells them they must change, to become anything less. This has been the Boardroom Files. Subscribe. Because the next story we're telling is not about one company. It is about 2 brothers. Brothers who built competing empires from the ruins of a single family, whose rivalry created 2 of the most recognizable brands in the history of sport, and whose hatred for each other divided an entire town in Germany for over 70 years. This is the story of Adidas versus Nike, and it begins with a feud so bitter, so personal, so completely destructive, that it tore a family apart and changed the world of sport forever. We'll see you in the boardroom. It is 1932.